Welcome back on board the Starship, and we're talking with Anthony Beckett, who has been searching for evidence of life on Mars. And one of the most famous areas on Mars, Anthony, is Cydonia, and I think a lot of people who are interested in astronomy have heard of Cydonia, because there appears to be lots of strange, perhaps man-made, we might say, objects in this area. Certainly looks, I think there's something to it, but give us the history of it, Anthony.
Well, basically, yeah, Cydonia was a region first photographed by the Mars Viking orbiter, like number 1. After it dropped its orbiter off onto the surface to go, to do its experiments, it would continue to go around the planet to map the planet, and also look for a suitable landing site for the second lander. And one of the images it sent back was basically an image which basically showed what looked like a human face staring up from the surface. Now, it's not just me who thinks that, it's not just yourself who thinks that. NASA employees in the press conference say, oh yeah, it looks like a Martian face. It looks like a face on the Martian surface. They also clarified that, saying, well, it's just tricks of light and shadow, because when we went back, it just disappeared. It's just an illusion. Because, you see faces in clouds, you see faces everywhere,
Yeah.
The idea, well, even really, think about a photograph. A face in a photograph is an illusion. It's not really a human face. It's a representation of such. The question was, here we have what looks like a face on Mars. Looking up at the camera, is that evidence of? Is it just chance, or is it somebody built it? One of the things we mentioned, Brookings, earlier about the possibility of finding artifacts on the Moon or other planets. Well, is this what we're looking at? Something to investigate.
Okay. Now, there's also the five-sided pyramid, which is another artifact nearby, not far. I mean, have you got a diagram there, Anthony?
We do. Yeah, we have this. This is what's called the DNM pyramid. To tell you the story about how the DNM pyramid was discovered briefly, well, I mentioned that NASA claimed that the first image as it was trickle light and shadow. And it's two engineers called Dimitri and Molinar. They were two electrical engineers, and what they were trying to do was find the second image that NASA had referred to when they said it was just trickle light and shadow. They couldn't find the image, and it'd been lost from the archives somewhere. They eventually found it. It was misfiled and places, so eventually got hold of it. And once they had, well, basically what it proved was that NASA was basically lied. It wasn't just a trick of light and shadow. Because with a different sun angle, it still looked like a human face. So rather than it being an object which, when you look from one angle, looks like a face, but you turn it, you lose the image, the illusion. You have a constant illusion of a face. Now, that doesn't prove it's artificial. It proves it just looks like a face. That's all you've proven. But these engineers were interested in eliciting more information out. So they needed the two images of the face to do that. But in the second image, it had another object which they found to be of more interest eventually. And that was the DNM pyramid. It's named after them two engineers. The reason being possibly obvious reasons. You can see the obvious symmetry, bilateral symmetry in the image. It also looks like a five-pointed star. Not quite. It doesn't have it doesn't have rotational symmetry because it's you've got like the top half. Actually, what the image shows and the graphic shows is that the top half represents hexagonal symmetry, while the bottom half shows pentagonal symmetry. So you have like geometry going on in there, which is kind of odd for a natural feature.
And how would that compare to the size of a pyramid on Earth? I mean,
lengthwise, I think it's about it's a mile to a mile and a half long or something like that.
All right, so it would be much bigger then.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not tall; it's very shallow.
Okay. Yeah.
They call it the DNM pyramid, but it's more like a barrow or an earthworks than it is than an actual pyramid. Right. Pyramids. You think Egyptian Giza pyramid, nothing like that. If this is a landform that is being carved to look like a five-sided pyramid, well, a five-sided earthworks, Marsworks. The question is, who carved it? Was it weather? Was it kind of the environment, or was it intelligent life?
Right. Well, one of the theories on Earth which comes from Robert Bauval about the Giza pyramids, is that they represent the stars in Orion's belt.
Yes, yeah.
And there are other researchers, such as I spoke to the historian Alan Wilson, who believes that the mounds in Wales, the ancient mounds, he believes that they map to the stars. They are laid out in known constellations.
Yeah.
And we've got a video clip here of a YouTube clip of a chap who basically takes all of the anomalies in Cydonia and then he overlays them on a specific star map called the Pleiades, which is a constellation that we know about, and he compares them. So we're just going to take a look at that clip now.
This is the area of Cydonia on Mars. There's the Mars face, the five-sided pyramid, and the grouping of ruins which we call a cluster that we believe matches the Pleiades stars. Now what I've done here is I've taken a transparency simply by going over all the detail on this photograph and marking circles over all the anomalies, even the small ones, the Mars face. This area here, you'll see those little bits and pieces. Just have a relook at it again. That is what the transparency looks like. We have the Mars face targeted. That's the most important part. The other detail here we're going to see on the star map what is special about that position. So let's take this transparency, which you know is an exact match with Mars. We're going to look at the area of Taurus, and to find the Pleiades in the night sky, you go to Orion and follow the three belt stars through Taurus, and you find the Pleiades. It's a common astronomical little trick that the ancients knew very well about, and they've shown Orion also finding the way through to something special in Taurus. Let's zoom in now on the Pleiades. Here's our transparency now. We put the transparency over it, and you'll see why this theory is so exciting. It's actually an amazing duplicate of the stars. I don't know if the camera can pick it up clearly, but here is our Mars face area. Can I tilt it? Is it alright? It's alright, okay. All these stars fit by magnitude with basically the size of the anomalies. Even some of the other stars in contention here have anomalies matching. There's a grouping down here that seems to match that other grouping on Mars. But more importantly, let's see what star comes into the position of the target. Now we know that that target is directly in place. I'll take the transparency away. We'll now zoom in this area. So let's look at the target area. Under magnification, I'm going to lock in on this star and run back in time. Now we need to find what star is in this area as we go back into time. I'm going to run back in hundreds of years per second, starting now. Watch the small star. There it goes. Running back now, 1,000 years ago. That's 0 BC. Now we're going back to 3,000 years ago. It's over here. 4,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. So it's 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. It's in that position. It's moved from there in the exact direction that we're anticipating. What's so important about this little star? This is our sun-like star that we're looking at, and it's 16 light years away, 15.74 to be exact. And this amount of time needed to get to exactly being in position is 17,000 years ago. In 17,000 years, it gets exactly into that position. That matches the Mars face. That is our conclusion. 17,000 years ago, that area on Mars was very, very important, and it seems to revere a sun-like star being a place of the gods, a place of humans colonizing this place on Mars. And this is more than likely in reverence of the colonization from that star.
Right, so what he's claiming there is that there's a star which 17,000 years ago was in the position where the face on Mars was, and therefore he believes that whoever built those structures built them to revere whatever that star was. So therefore he's dated that the thing to 17,000 years old.
Because that's exactly what Robert Val and his colleagues did for Giza, didn't they?
Yeah.
They managed to wind back the celestial clock to map. I think it was worked out to be about 10,000 BC. I think when the ground plan matched. I think Sirius, like that particular star, over time moved significantly. That's fascinating. That's really good corroboration.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to independently see that done by somebody else to get all of those anomalies at Cydonia and compare them with the Pleiades. There's an interesting thing about the Pleiades, of course, is that a lot of people who claim to have had contact with extraterrestrials, contactees we call them, people like Billy Myers and many others, claim that they come from the Pleiades.
I have heard that. I have heard that. Yeah.
And they're generally the human type extraterrestrials. This is what these people tell us. So it is fascinating.
That in itself is fascinating. Yeah. I've got a quick thing on that. Billy Mayer, the guy there's a CIA analyst who authenticated one of the Billy Meier photographs, at least one of them. And interestingly enough, this guy was called Michael Malin, a CIA analyst. Now that guy went on to have complete control of all of these images coming back from NASA. That's just a coincidence. You just mentioned this now. That guy has complete control. That begs the question.
So there's a CIA guy has control of NASA's images of Cydonia.
Well, former CIA guy. He founded his own company. He's an image analysis expert. He found Michael Malin Space Science Systems.
Right.
If you go to msss.com, you'll see all most of the images from the 1990 Pathfinder onto only a few years ago. But yeah, the same guy was responsible for sharing this information with the world. Obviously, with a time delay, about 6 months recently. But he was also involved in authenticating
Billy Meier.
A Billy Meier photograph. How's that work?
Yeah.
You have to wonder, like, these photographs which are coming through from NASA. We have this. I've just mentioned there was a time when they were released straight away. Then they went through a period of having a 6-month delay. Makes you wonder if there's anything they can do in that time frame.
For those who aren't
fake these, I'm just suggesting.
Yes. For those who aren't informed on Billy Meier is a 70-odd-year-old. Is he Swedish?
Swiss, wasn't he?
Sorry, Swiss guy who claims to have had contact with Pleiadian extraterrestrials going back to the 1950s, and a lot of his early, testimony and evidence is very compelling. Although a lot of people think that he's faked some of it, but the CIA were allegedly keeping tabs on him.
I don't know if he's keeping tabs. From my understanding, this information came from Richard Hoagland. I think the idea was, he was an image analyst. He just looked at the photograph and said, it wasn't a faked photograph. Didn't come to any kind of conclusion about why it was the objects, the Pleiadian beam ships, as Billy Meier called them, was there. But it gave some authenticity to it, and I'm just wondering if there's not a bit of deception in that, maybe. And it's just worrying that you have like private contractors handling all these. It's understandable why they use private contractors, but one of the problems has been going back to Mars. One of the problems has been when people have been trying to get accountability of NASA for these images and do more work. NASA just wipe their hands on it in a sense because they don't have legal rights over the images. They owned the property of Michael Malin. Not anymore, because I think another company's taken over. It's kind of interesting because when Michael Malin lost the contract for the monopoly basically for being the conduit for the images, he had a press conference which announced that his team had discovered the evidence for water on Mars in the form of the streaks come down the hillside, and that's fascinating. But Richard Hoagland and his contemporaries had been talking about them for years, and it took until Michael Malin lost his contract for him to come out and have a press conference and announce it.
Right, and
that's fascinating.
I mean, some of these, the later probes, we've got 26 terabits of data coming back from them, and huge amounts of, the early probes sent back, 21 images, and now we've got terabytes coming back. So those images of Cydonia, can we not get much more high definition images to prove or disprove that they are natural or not?
We have had more recent high resolution photographs of the face, and what that shows is that it looks less like a face. It looks more like a hill. It still seems to have very slight symmetry, and the most notable feature is that it looks like it's got water runoff channels. It looks like it's got forms of weathering on there, which is evidence of water. But what people have gone on to do is actually take what looks less like a face, take the two halves of the face image, and then mirror them, which basically gives an illusion again, because it's an illusion of a hominid human face and also a feline face. So there are people speculating that if the face was artificial, it was possibly done in the image of a hominid feline representation, which we know as a sphinx from Egypt. So that connection's been made, but it doesn't prove that the face is artificial. The most compelling stuff to me about the artificiality of Cydonia is the geometry.
Yeah.
It's the repeating angles
I agree.
within the complex.
I'm not sold on the face, but just when you look at that plan view.
Yeah, this is from Richard Hoagland's Enterprise Mission website, and it basically has repeating angle 19.5 degrees, repeating out throughout the complex. The D&M pyramid has got the same angle repeating. It's got all sorts of the mathematical constants going to be deduced from it. It's got its own symmetry, and it's all kind of the pentagonal, hexagonal symmetry. To me, that is compelling. 95% it's artificial, 5%. Well, we still need to prove it. It's not proving anything. But what you've just demonstrated there, you've shown me the clip of this guy who's done some kind of collaboration and taken a part of this complex and extended it to. It's done the same kind of thing that people have done on terrestrial archaeology, but he's done it on extraterrestrial potential archaeology. So at what point, the question is, at what point do you accept it as,
Yeah.
as you know, has it been a evidence of intelligence?
And there are a few other than Cydonia, there are other areas on Mars where strange photographs have been taken by NASA. In particular, there's it's known as the Bigfoot image.
Oh yeah, that was the famous headlines in newspapers about the kind of.
It does look very human-like.
It's got the right pose. It does, but it's one of the problem with the image, and it's not. It kind of looks like a person or a statue or something.
Yeah,
stood
a statue.
There. But from my analysis, me personally looking at that, and I have no way of knowing anything to do with that. So to me, I don't see that as evidence for life on Mars at all. It's fascinating because if there was, then yeah, it's interesting, but it doesn't prove it. It can't prove it. It isn't capable of proving the argument to me.
Yeah.
But that makes me wonder why it was pushed so heavily in the media as well.
Well, you see, I think the actual image that appeared on was a massive landscape, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and if you look at the whole landscape, you can't actually see it. You have to zoom right into it.
It's right in the bottom left-hand corner.
Right in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
So maybe, I'm only theorising here, maybe NASA let that image go out, not realising that there was a human-like artefact in it, and it slipped through the net.
Well,
maybe there are thousands of other images that have got statues on them, but they always filter them out.
Yeah.
And that one slipped through because the image was so far in the corner.
It's possible, but why I'm interested is about proving this stuff, and to me, it's not. It's potential evidence. It's not evidence enough. You need to look at. Carl Sagan, in his book Cosmos, he kind of pinned it down. Basically, said the first sign of intelligent life on Earth lies in the geometric regularity of its constructions. If we apply that same criteria to extraterrestrial archaeology, we are looking for geometry, and it's the only thing that you can consider a scientific method for proving, or at least to a degree, to a theory of whether you have intelligent life somewhere, other than obviously meeting people and whatever else. Obviously, if you go visit the place, it's different. But we haven't done that. We've sent robotic probes, and to me, because of the way the Bigfoot image has been peddled in the media, I'm sceptical. It seems more like a distraction to me.
In the Cydonia, it could be maybe even hundreds of thousands of years old. After that could have been constructed a long time ago, which is why it's become weathered.
Well, there's a guy called Andrew. I think pronounced his surname Basaggio.
Yes, Basaggio.
Yeah.
I am aware of him. Yeah.
And he on the basis of this image being discovered, which I think was in 2007, been taken by the Spirit. He wrote a paper which he called "Discovery of Life on Mars," and it was based sole argument being on that one image. And I'm thinking, hang on, there's all this other evidence for life on Mars, microbes in the 70s, trees in the 90s. Now, potential insect, animal life, basically from Phoenix. Why is he focusing solely on this Bigfoot image, a Sasquatch in the deserts of Mars? It made no sense to me. I read his article, and he claims that he's seeing all sorts of objects which I just can't see in the images.
Yeah.
And it's fair enough. Maybe not everyone's capable of. I'm not discrediting him for that. But at one point, he's actually saying you can see something he calls a land octopus, and I think this is ridiculous. Even if there was such a thing, this image doesn't prove it. The same person, though, the problem is the same guy is in the exopolitics community and being promoted in the exopolitics community as a disclosure witness, claiming he's a witness to teleportation technology within. I don't know if it's a DOD or anything, but in the US establishment.
He says they've got time machines and things like that.
I'm putting the pieces together here and thinking, this guy, maybe he believes what he's saying. He's a lawyer, so who knows. But maybe he believes what he's saying. But the problem is the way he's approached that analysis just discredits his arguments completely. But the problem is it rubs off on everybody else. And that's an issue.
Yeah. If he's a lawyer, he must be telling the truth. And some other photographs before we finish. We've got this image here, which is, Bob Dean's. Bob Dean has spoken about this in some of his talks. Which on that image, it does look like it's some kind of man-made structure, or he claims it could be a spaceport.
Yeah, Bob Dean promotes this as being as evidence for like a base on Mars. He calls it the Mars base, I think, in his presentation at Barcelona's conference last year. There's a researcher called David Childress,
right,
who wrote a book called Extraterrestrial Archaeology, I think he was, and I think it came out in 1994. He referred to it as the airport terminal. He'd seen the same image. So Bob Dean has picked up an existing image. Bob Dean's chosen it because he claims to be aware of what is it. He claims that there's a space program which has got a colony
on Mars. Yeah.
And he's picked this image out to say that, look, this is the airport. This is like, it looks like it could be one. He's claiming it is the base, but to me, I wasn't sure. So what I dug out the original image, which was taken by Mariner 9 actually in 1972. Dug out the original image, and I basically, well, the original image as you see on this collation, you've got three versions. Top left is the original Mariner image, and it's such a low kind of
low
contrast. It's difficult to see anything. NASA themselves in the middle image I'll show you the contrast. They adapt it so you can actually see some detail.
Yeah.
Now I've taken this to the extreme. I took the middle image. Well, actually, I took the first image, the original photo, and adjusted the contrast myself. And what I found was that when you get to where NASA's middle one image was, you see kind of curvature, and because it looks like an optical illusion, you can't see whether it's concave to the ground or convex over the planet. We can't see whether it's something above the surface or under. But anyway, you go on to change the contrast even further. What happens? The lighter parts obviously turn white, and then all the surrounding grey area starts turning white, and it gives an artificial square structure, square illusion to the image. So if you tweak the contrast too much, it just makes it look square and rectilinear, which the original image never was. Yeah. So I think, I'm not discrediting Bob Dean and what he does. I don't know his sources and background, but I think he's picked an image here to argue his case, which is, it should have, it's not quite the image he's portraying.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean,
it may be something, but the image that he's used is far more convincing than the original image. So he should have used both of them in his.
Yeah, he used other images as well, and some of them I didn't really see what he saw in some of them as well. Right. I get the impression that there are some whistleblowers such as himself who are aware of stuff through word of mouth and in the intelligence community, to want of a better word, and he's trying to piece pieces together from stuff that's in the public domain. Yeah. And sometimes he does a good job, sometimes he comes up with something less.
And there are many whistleblowers, aren't there? Who Gary McKinnon is not a whistleblower. I guess he is a whistleblower. He is in a sense, isn't he? He is in a sense. Who claim that the Americans have these undisclosed ships in space that have been to Mars, and Mars they've got bases there. There are many people who theorise that there are people already in Mars. I've got one of the I think it was the rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. One of them in 2005 I think stopped working because it had sand on its solar panels, and basically the batteries went flat. And John Lear claims that the reason why it suddenly started working again is because one of these people who lives on Mars actually went out with a duster and cleaned the solar panel, and then it then charged the batteries up and it sprung back into life. So I thought that was quite funny.
It's interesting because I remember, I don't know if it's the same incident, but the incident of the rover losing its power. But there was a period around that time, 2006 I thought it was, one of the rovers basically was running at reduced power, say about 40%, and miraculously overnight it went back up to like 90% or something. So the problem was it was collecting dust on its solar panels, and something, like you say, something cleaned it. Well, Richard Hoagland has mentioned this on Coast to Coast Radio. Actually, mentioned that an image was taken, photographs taken directly after that event, which showed on the ground. You basically see what it looks like rainwater. It looks like the ground's wet, like it's been raining, and it's been postulated by some people that this is evidence for, basically rainwater raining on Mars, which was what people claim has cleaned the back of the.
Either that or the man with the duster had a bucket as well with water in it.
Yeah, I think there are some people, some researchers who. It might be that there is a Mars colony. I don't know. I couldn't say either way. But if you're going to prove to people that there's a Mars colony,
you've got to
actually prove to people. You can't just. It does that statement from John Lear. As much as I expect something like that from John Lear, it doesn't prove anything to me.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about this and many other ufological subjects, aren't we?
We are,
at the Exopolitics Conference.
Yeah, the Leeds Exopolitics Conference, 2010.
Leeds Exopolitics Conference 2010, and that is what are the dates, Anthony?
It's Saturday and Sunday, but August 7th and 8th.
Okay, and they can find out about that on the internet, and the URL is www.
exopolitics-leeds.co.uk.
And we've got, what, 10 speakers there?
We've actually got 11 actually. We've got special events, which is Professor John Searle and a
Mm-hmm.
film showing a film about John Searle.
Right.
So we've got 10 speakers and a special event with John.
Mm-hmm. And Anthony's going to be talking about Mars. I'm going to be talking about the information war, and we've got Andrew Johnson, Nick Pope,
That's right. Mary Rodwell.
Richard Dolan,
Yes, right. Steve Bassett.
Steve Bassett,
And Alan Foster and
right.
Gary Heseltine, the
Gary
policeman from
Heseltine.
Leeds, who
Mhm.
as he runs the Prufrost police
Yeah.
database.
Have we missed anyone?
David Griffin.
David
How can
Griffin.
we forget David?
Sorry, David. Right. So yeah, get yourself there, because that's a lot of if
Yeah.
you're interested in the UFO subjects and exopolitics, it's going to be a fantastic event, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a much bigger event than last year. Last year we had a trial run. It was like a one-day event, but we've actually gone to make the full conference this year. It's the only platform for exopolitics in the UK, and I think I don't actually know if they're doing a Barcelona conference this year, so it may well be the only one in Europe, as far as I know.
Right.
I know Steve Bassett's on tour and doing various locations, but unless there is a Barcelona conference again this year, which I'm sure, it may well be the only one in Europe.
Okay, then, Anthony. Well, thanks very much indeed for coming on board, and hopefully we'll learn some more from you at the conference, because I'm just really sort of a novice when it comes to Mars. My knowledge is I'm a novice basically. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks, Richard.
Okay, and we'll get you beamed back down to planet Earth.
Thank you.
And it just remains for me to say, keep your eyes on the skies, your feet on the ground, and tell all your friends about this show.